So we look at how the playoffs were for the NFC, and it's no question that the Cowboys played in a loaded conference this go around in the playoffs. You had a legitimate argument for like six of the teams, and you could have been like, hey, this team could go all the way for this insert reason. And I mean, the sixth seed, the team that the Cowboys played in the first round, is now in the NFC Championship game as of this recording against the third seed, that being the Rams. So we have an NFC West matchup in the championship game once again. So with that being said, there are going to be changes to the conference that I think us as Cowboy fans, I understand that you really shouldn't be paying attention to other teams. Like, I get that whole aspect. But I'm going to go against that grain because I think that we as fans have to really look at what are we going up against. Like, is there a viable path for Dallas this go around in 2022? Going into 2023, is it a real shot? We'll see. So, before we get started, if you could do me a favor, like the video, subscribe if you're new to make sure you get the latest and greatest in Cowboys content, along with hitting that notification bell. It doesn't take too long to do, and it keeps you notified when I post content like this. So, with that out of the way, what we first need to do is recognize what is going to be this new power dynamic in the NFC. There's going to be a power vacuum that emerges because you're going to have possibly the two top teams in the conference, the Green Bay Packers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, look completely different. Tom Brady has been seriously contemplating retirement this go around, and this isn't some BS. This is like a legitimate possibility. And then you have Green Bay, which looks like they're going to implode. That roster looks like it's going to fall apart. They can definitely move some cap space around, but Aaron Rodgers is probably gone. Davante Adams is probably gone. A lot of these guys are probably gone. So you could end up seeing those top two teams be knocked off, and they might not be in the mix next year, or they're probably just not as strong as they used to be. So what does that mean for the Cowboys? So the Packers have been, and you can even throw in the Bucs for these past two seasons, they have been the powerhouses that you're kind of like, okay, these are the teams that are to beat in the conference. Green Bay has pretty much been the best team in the conference, and they haven't made it to the championship, that being the Super Bowl, not the championship game, but the Super Bowl. So you look at their divisions, okay? So let's start off here. Now, I think, really, what do we think about the East? So the Cowboys are sitting in an NFC East, which will be competitive next year. Do not think it's going to be like how it was this year. The Eagles have a ton of draft capital, and they could definitely make a push to being better next season, especially if Hurts develops better. They keep building up this roster. There's a legitimate possibility that the Eagles could make a play for the division title. Do not come at me with the BS. Oh, they're terrible. We don't know that. I mean, the Eagles, I think, have the capital to get things done, and they're on the right path, as much as I hate to say it. The Washington football team, to me, is a quarterback away from really becoming a legitimate playoff team. And the Giants are just like the Giants. They're going to take a bit to rebuild. So, for me, I think Dallas should be able to make the playoffs next year. Will they win the division? I don't know. I mean, that is... And again, if you want to say I'm being fake, you got to realize something, guys, that there has been a reason why there has not been a repeat champion in the NFC East for quite some time, and it's because this division churns these division champions all the time. So I look at that and I say to myself, I think the Cowboys can realistically win the division next year, but also I think there's a possibility they end up getting in as a wild card spot. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that Dallas has an 11-6 or 10-7 record and they win the division next year. So what does that mean for the rest of the conference? So you look at the NFC North. We talked about the Green Bay Packers. And you have teams like Detroit that are still rebuilding. Chicago is still trying to figure things out. The Packers, again, massive question marks for them. And the Minnesota Vikings. So the Minnesota Vikings, I think they need to get a couple tweaks, and they might be a good team next year if they can get things squared away. Then you look at the Packers. Comes down to how Jordan Love looks and how Matt LaFleur can be outside of Aaron Rodgers. And, maybe Davante Adams, because there's a reason that they were very good. And, let's not, and I'm not saying they're going to fall off the map. I think Green Bay will be a playoff team next year. I don't think that's a question. Detroit and Chicago, I think, are still in that rebuild mode, so that may take some time. But, I think they're on the right path. You go to the NFC South. I think that the Buccaneers could end up being a team where they fall apart and they kind of go back into that mediocrity, but we'll see how that goes. The Saints are, I feel like the Saints, as long as they are healthy, will be a threat in this conference. But then again, Sean Payton has, rumors that he will retire. So does that mean that they are as big of a threat as we think they are? Well, if he sticks around, they could be. Carolina is in a tailspin. They need a quarterback, and it doesn't look like their coaching staff is doing them any favors, and Atlanta is in full rebuild mode. So, this is kind of the outlook going into the season. Things could change, especially, going into the draft and free agency. Then you look at the West. The West is going to have, your biggest, the heavy hitters. Arizona, LA, San Francisco. Those three teams are probably going to all make the playoffs again next year. But it comes down to, what do the 49ers do at quarterback? Jimmy Garoppolo has played efficient football, and they have been playing very well as a team to get to where they're at. Does it mean that, if Jimmy Garoppolo moves on, then it comes down to, well, how good does Trey Lance look? Do the Cardinals go into a slump next year? What happens to the Rams? Those are questions we're going to have to ask. Especially if the Rams or the 49ers make it to the Super Bowl, is there going to be a hangover? And then Seattle's in a weird state of flux because you could see Russell Wilson move to another team. Could he go to Philadelphia? Could he go to Pittsburgh? That's a possibility. So if I'm the Cowboys, the teams that I'm kind of looking at is my own division. Respectfully, I think that you need to keep an eye out on them. I think the Packers are still going to be a question mark. The Saints, maybe, if Sean Payton sticks around. And then the three West teams. So I think this leads into my next question. Is there a realistic shot for the Cowboys next season, given the circumstances? There is. I don't think that there's a question at that. I think that Dallas having the team that they have, is Dallas a bad team? No. I think that I need to stress that. When I was upset with how they lost and how other teams did, I don't think it's that Dallas is a terrible team. I think that Dallas is a team that just needs to fix the mistakes that they can definitely correct and get the bullshit ego out of the way. Kellen Moore is question. I just am so irritated with him because I know he can be very good. I've seen moments where he's shown how good he can be, and then there's moments where he looks like a goddamn idiot. Dan Quinn's leaving, so we'll see how the Cowboys will place him. And then the question is if Mike McCarthy can get this Cowboys team to a 10 to 12 win record, what could their outlook be? Could they be the number one seed next year? Probably not. I do not expect that. I expect the Cowboys to come back and go down to a 9 to 10 win football team. That should get you into the playoffs. But you look at how the rest of this conference is looking, and I don't want to get my hopes up again, but to be real with you guys, I think that Dallas is slated to maybe get over the hump. Dallas is a team where they have plenty of good young players. They just need to get things put together. And I know we hear that every time, but can we just be real? I think that if Dallas can get their shit together, they might be a good team again next year. But that comes down to how they attack this. We got to be, they'll make the playoffs next year, maybe, if they don't F up. And with that, the question then becomes, can they go on a run? And I think that it comes down to matchups. That's the key thing. Dallas had a hard matchup versus the 49ers, and I felt like if they had won that game, they could have gone all the way. They could have possibly gone all the way because of getting that. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing. But I think that's going to be the question mark. The Cowboys need to establish who they are as a football team, which I think their identity is going to be a team that takes a balanced approach, which I think is the best way to win games. I don't think you need to have a quarterback throwing now. And Dak has been, not to go on this route, Dak has shown moments where he can be and moments where he can't be. And I think that we'll see how he continues to progress as he gets further into his career. Does he become a Tony Romo and bloom at the late part of his career? That's a possibility. But we have to understand that. So I think that for me, the Cowboys should be in the mix for next season. But that's the goal. Mike, you have to get this team back to the playoffs. You have the boogeyman for the Cowboys and the Packers could be gone next year, and Tom Brady could be done. If Tom Brady is not done, I don't see it, but we got to keep an eye out. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Tell me down below, what do you think about next year? Do you think the Cowboys going forward, like not even this year, do you think in 5 years the Cowboys have a realistic shot at getting to a conference title game, possibly winning it all? Tell me down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Bye-bye.